Hello, everyone. Thank you. Good. Thank you, and good every moment, and now in particular. So, welcome everyone to our regular Tuesday night classes. In this case, the Perfection of Wisdom teachings, and here we are. We have come towards the last part of the text, and which gives us a little bit more opportunity to meditate on the meanings of the perfection of wisdom. So let's firstly do the refuge, the prayer, which is today's topic of the teaching is talking about, because when you achieve the practice of the accumulation merit, which we discussed last week, then you don't have the unmeritorious component at all. So therefore, renunciation of all those complete ability to restrain the opposites of the merit. So we need to therefore take the refuge with that understanding. Usually we take refuge in ordinary things, worldly things, impermanent things, metaphysical things, and just temporary things. But we need to look more selflessly and I would say altruistically, farsightedly, for the long-term benefit, which is taking refuge, even not for ourselves or this life, but also for the benefit of being of use and benefit and service to other sentient beings. So the motivation with which we need to renounce the motivation with which we may take refuge with the intention thinking, what is it in for me? It's quite a common thing that one does, but here one need to learn to renounce that, and therefore we may fear rebirth, lower rebirth and samsara, but here we need to fear not that, but fear selfishness. So with this in mind, one takes a refuge with good renunciation and fear of not on samsara or people or lower rebirth, but fear of self-centeredness. And we need to do the prayer when it says, in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment is reached. By the merits of giving and the like, so the time and energy and physical and verbal and whatever energy that we give, we need to do it without any kind of holding it back, without any kind of unwillingness to give, unwillingness to do, but do it willingly and conscientiously without any touch of the miserliness and short-sightedness and looking for immediate short-term benefit, but rather for the until essence of enlightenment reach. So we need to renounce the opposite of generosity. We need to renounce opposite of the discipline when we say the prayers. We need to renounce the opposite of patience, the impatience. We need to renounce the opposite of joyous effort. The effort is a little bit sloppy and not quite willing, that kind of things. We need to renounce those things. And then we'll definitely yield greater clarity and not cluttered concentration, and there will a lot rational and reasonable mind. So with this mind, by virtue of giving, and the like refers to all the six perfections. So with this in mind, we'll do the refuge, which includes also the boosted form of bodhicitta, because we're going to do it for the benefit of others. So we're not doing it just so that we did at the beginning, and no, we actually don't do something at the beginning and then finish at the beginning. It doesn't have any meaning towards the middle of the session or towards the end of the session. Like, of course, when you're baking a cake, you have certain ingredients you pour first and then second and third, but all the ingredients are relevant throughout the whole cake making and until you eat it, So first doesn't die out after a few minutes and then have no relevance later on. Hopefully they're all still there. Hopefully refuge is still happening even when you're doing the meditation. Hope the bodhicitta is still staying current when you're doing the rest of the practices. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about. How to renounce all the opposite and how to make all the things, the what we call mix all things together, intersect all. The perfection of wisdom is intersection of all the parameters and eliminating of all the six opposite of the six parameters. In the very momentary effort that we make, we need to see them cultivated. So with this in mind, we will do the formally the actual verbally the refuge prayer, but actually we'll be doing the refuge throughout the rest of the session too. We must always stay in that refuge, always stay in that motivation of bodhicitta, in that state of practicing the elimination of the opposite of the refuge and bodhicitta and six parameters. Whether you as someone who's listening or I as someone who's speaking, outer mode of the action, listening and speaking is different, but deep down we should all have these complementary factors. These factors must all be there. So there is, someone is in Queensland, others are in South Australia, someone in USA, different parts of the country, but we are all try to yield the same perfection. This is perfection of wisdom. This is not baking a cake. Even if baking a cake, you got to make sure all the ingredients are mixed properly. You don't just pour the ingredients on the table and then don't put in the bowl and mix them together. It's not a Play-Doh. Even with Play-Doh, they have to have all the things together. We got to have every ingredient in the bowl, mix them thoroughly, that there is no white flour left somewhere else, and they have to be blended. That's what they have, the blenders. Perfection of wisdom is a blender of all things together, and there is no ingredients have gone wasted. Because if one ingredient is missing, you wouldn't taste the cake quite right. Have you noticed that sometimes you did the practice, but you was really superficial? It was just like token. Oh, you did the prayer, but that's it. But felt nothing almost. Almost like a burden is your burden has been, your daily commitments finished. What's a relief? Oh gosh, type of thing. That's not practice. You could be doing some ordinary chore with people, but still you can see the perfection of wisdom happening. This is now we are talking about. We're not talking about just formal practice. We're talking about informal way of life during which this culture of the bodhicitta, culture of the ultimate bodhicitta is intertwined, that your mind is very, very switched on in this presence, in this incessant presence of your awareness. Just because we are physical, we still are needing to feed every day and wash, so therefore we need to take care of that. But deep down, the very contents of the mind is a lot more supercharged. So with this in mind, we need to really do justice to the meaning of the perfection of wisdom, and bringing, of course, the understanding of emptiness. But you can't realize emptiness unless you have something to empty about. First we have to do all those facets, the methodical side of it. You have to have all the first six parameters, first five parameters, then they bring the six, and then blend them together. And in every effort, there is no ordinary activities are ordinary when you have extraordinary mind that knows how to blend it. So you have to chop the wood, you have to collect the water, but still perfection of wisdom. So you don't say, now I can put my feet up, as if that was a sort of bit of a difficult thing to do. No, you should charge your mind in an amazing sense of fitness that actually understand and realize and stay in that profound illumination. Of course, we're gonna incorporate tonight the playing of the Heart Sutra in Sanskrit by some Sakyapa nuns has been chanting that, and they have put it on YouTube. So we will use that as a background of the meditation on the perfection of wisdom a little bit later. But right now, of course, we're going to maintain all of that together, but we're going to use the refuge in bodhicitta, four immeasurable first, and as we tried to incorporate the four immeasurables last week. So now, let's do all the above. We can screen share the prayer just in case some of you may not know. Just sit still and bring your attention to the very switch on way to incorporate and blend all the understanding of the renunciation, of the refuge, of bodhicitta, of six parameters, and three thorough doors of liberation, and so on, as we do these various prayers as the site of the meditation. And the Buddha Dhamma Sangha Adere Vyede Laidema Bhavacha Ayevendala Ashare Buddha Vajube and the Buddha Dharma Sangha Adere Vyede Laidema Bhavacha Ayevendala Ashare Buddha Vajube and the Buddha Dhamma Sangha Adere Vyede Laidema Bhavacha Ayevendala Ashare Buddha Vajube. Happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never be from the happiness that no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never be from the happiness that knows no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness they know suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far, according to the intelligence and possession of it, the yatanda dharma, agrel have come will. So next chapter, which is chapter 9, is actually it's a renunciation. The renunciation here refers to practice all the antidotes. By doing so, it will automatically reject and renounce all the opposites. So when we talk about the opposites, we're talking about what are the positives of which we are practicing by doing perfection of wisdom. So we must therefore recollect, just as while we're talking, we all have Buddha nature, and we should not think that we are some wretched person who is not fit to live on the surface of the earth. We should honor our own goodness, that we too have Buddha nature. So because lots of people got their really wretched view towards themselves, they don't like themselves, and as a result of that, they don't like others. That is we need to renounce that. We need to claim the Buddha nature of everybody, and therefore renounce this profound misunderstanding we have of our own self and others. That all sentient beings have Buddha nature. Only difference is how adventitiously or temporarily they're obscured, and they're not aware of it. So therefore, we are now aware of it, and because we are aware of our obscurations, now we know exactly what to renounce the obscurations, and that's why the rejection that someone is bad by their one wrongdoing or even two wrongdoing, and doing that is we need to renounce such judgment towards others or including oneself. But we need to actually honor our own intrinsic goodness. We too are light, and we have light within us. We have Buddha nature within us, and so we need to reject that kind of the very wrong view that we have towards sentient beings and ourselves. So sentient beings are not objects of compassion anymore. Sentient beings are objects of inspiration. Because without sentient beings, we could not practice any of the perfection of wisdom. You want to be very generous today. Without sentient beings who need your generosity, you can't practice perfection of generosity. So we need, in order to get rid of our miserliness, we need sentient beings who need our generosity. So our generosity is totally dependent. Our 500 grams of white flour is totally dependent on the banana, the soda, the sugar, the banana, and butter and egg. You can remember more ingredients than I can do because I'm barely a cook, So all of you knows exactly, they come at your fingertips, don't you? Yeah, think of those. There's not a single entity, single ingredient that is inherently cause of your cake. Okay? Your generosity totally depends on someone else's humility to receive your gift. So therefore, our generosity is totally dependent on sentient beings. Some sentient beings are bodhisattvas in disguise. They deliberately come at our doors and beg our generosity. I mean, who will do that if they have some pride, A couple of weeks ago, I met these two really lovely school boys, and they're maybe year 10 or something, and they came, they came at my door, and it wasn't quite during lockdown, and they wouldn't accept any cash, so I can't do anything, They wouldn't accept any cash, They want my other details, which I wasn't quite willing to give. So there was a little bit of a test of me. I wasn't attached to a few notes, but I was attached to my details because they want all the details. So it was quite an interesting encounter. It was really good test of my lack of generosity. I wasn't completely unconditionally willing to give everything, including my personal details, which sometimes the Red Cross people say that they want all our details. They want to lock us in so that we give them monthly automatic deduction. So it's quite interesting, and I realized that you can't even test how miserly you are unless someone comes generously at your door. So this is what I'm talking about in terms of what we need to learn to renounce. We cannot practice the positive without learning exactly opposite. And when you do that, that is called renunciation. That yielding of renunciation is called definite emergence or definite becoming. Definite nge in Tibetan. Nge means definite, jung means become. There's a definite becoming. There's some kind of liberation happening. You are liberated from your miserliness because you can really get rid of miserliness and your attachment to things, or whatever the case might be. It says that when two kings fight, they do so for desirous qualities and wealth. They desire the other person's land or might or force or rivers or mountains or riches or whatever. They don't fight just to show who can fight better. They are eyeing to fight what they can. The first way up their strength and prepare army and weapon. They have to first weigh up, their strength, whether they can put a fight. And if they need to fight, then they prepare army and a weapon before they go. Without donning the armor, they do not send their soldiers to the war, do they? They make sure they got reinforcement. They know exactly where to go from, what time to go, like a waging war. But they do first train and drill the army in files and give them instructions before they fight the war, So that's why people need to be trained before going to war. And we have a much bigger war with the ego than any enemy can ambush you. People think the enemy will come from outside, The enemy is sleeping inside them. The enemy is the ego, the selfishness, the self-centeredness is the real enemy of all enemies. Now, to fight with external enemy, you have to drill, you have to train, you have to recruit, you have to get the army and weapon. The army may only fire if given order with drum and a whistle. This is very old-fashioned wars. This is Rongton wrote this in 15th century. I think he's quite well informed about military. He says they need to be ordered and they need to beat a drum. All the armies got drums. For now. and they have whistles. These days, maybe they can have signals. They have electronic signals when to fire and so on. You just number. They have to time the fighting well to assess for their fighting to be successful. Yeah? So they don't want to waste an ammunition. If they fire too quickly without themselves dug in carefully, it will just, they become destroyed before they can do anything. In the emptiness of land of reality of Dharmata, the two kings fight between victory and defeat. Okay? Both desires and seeks to renounce defeat and gain victory. So renunciation is the renouncing your weakness, renouncing your stubbornness, renouncing your kind of lack of discipline, and then you become able to gain victory. But here it is not so much an external enemy. They first train their armies to have faith in their skills and strategize the war carefully with military precision. Military precision. Now, Buddha himself, when he became enlightened, he was the victor. He was the victor. Jinas, we call Jina, means he was the victor. Because he defeated the enemy. He was well armed with discipline, with meditation, with compassion, with diligence, with generosity, with punctuality. He was armed with all those trainings. So military precision is the perfection of wisdom here. Likewise, gather the army of faith, gather the army of renunciation, gather the army of generosity, gather the army of truth, noble truth of suffering, noble truth of origin of suffering, noble truth of cessation, noble truth of the path. And then you gather the army of your all the six perfections and all the way to wisdom as the antidote. Until you have all the, people say, are you armed? Yeah. We are very armed. We are very well armed, We call someone one Indian journalist wrote a book. It's a cartoon, actually. He wrote the cartoon about his soulless Dalai Lama. He called the title Soldier of Peace. Soldier of Peace, which is really good. His soulless Dalai Lama is a soldier of peace. Yeah, exactly. He's fighting the war of selfishness, of division and people and religion and having faith and not faith. And he's always trying to say, the whole world is we are one family. So he called the book Soldier of Peace. Exactly. The example is that we need to gather our army of right view, wisdom, and these things as the antidote. The weapons and armies are the antidotes of faith, wisdom, and diligence. So your weapon is your diligence, your discipline, your faith, your commitment, your wisdom, your endurance. These are your army. So these are the army. With the acquisition of the wealth and riches of the six perfections. Now the six perfection is the riches, These are the riches, and these are the riches of all the riches. Choose the timing to wage the war on the enemies of wrong conception, of meanness and laziness with which you totally disagree. Very, very amazing, isn't it? You totally disagree with yourself. You can talk to the mirror. You can look in the mirror and tell yourself, point your finger towards your nose. I'm going to wage a war on you. Then your reflection says, on me? Is it not you? The other one, not the aggregate one, that which apprehend the aggregate as real. Okay, so this is very interesting. Your army of antidotes should invade the slack enemies. You have to ambush them. Within a minute, they all just have no chance to regather. Yeah, no chance to regather the antithesis of your sixth perfection, such as meanness. That's the opposite antithesis of generosity. Lack of discipline. That's the antithesis of discipline, and impatient. That is the antithesis of patience. Joyous effort, and opposite of that is laziness. So you have to basically surprise them. completely invade the slack enemies before they got up, before they got up from the bed, The intersecting of the six perfections. Now, you're doing that now, aren't you? You are doing that. You're supposed to be doing that. And you're not just waiting what I'm going to say, sensible, that's worthy of listening to. You should intersect the six parameters. Even I went dead silent. So, yeah, in a minute I will actually. In a minute we'll play the Heart Sutra, and I'll just make that to help you to intersect. Yeah, intersecting of the six perfection and making them 36 rows of regiments. Very, very good. Now you have six armies, and then now you multiply 6 by 6, and then you have 36. 36 rows of regiments must follow the command of self-realized spiritual friend. Now remember we talked about spiritual friend, the enlightened spiritual friend, the human spiritual friend, and self-realized spiritual friend. Now this is you who is the self-realized spiritual friend and who has passed on the knowledge, of the great spiritual military generals of Tibet in India. All the way from Nagarjuna. That's just going as far as 2nd century, That's not far enough. You have to go as far as the 5th century BC, because that's what the Buddha himself taught. Buddha himself taught the Heart Sutra 5th century BC. So between him and Nagarjuna, there were 400 years. So you don't want to live that 400 years gap, do we? No, we're talking about. Remember, Rongton talked at the very beginning of the course, the lineage of the perfection wisdom. He went through the 36 masters, 36 succession of masters until a particular monk. And so we're talking about that here. He's talking about great spiritual military generals of India and Tibet who were trained by the commander-in-chief, the Buddha himself. The Buddha is the commander-in-chief. Just look at the analogy of this. Buddha is the commander-in-chief. He trained all these people, and by the shooting of the gun and the arrow to the enemy at the chosen moment is the recognition of the affliction and obstacles in the meditation. Now, when you do the meditation, generally speaking, and also when we are going to do the Heart Sutra in a little while time, during that time, you need to fire. You need to fire. You need to fire the gun to the laziness, to the lack of, to the distracted mind, to the incorrect posture of the body, to the laziness, to the doubt, to the sloth, to the torpor, to the excitement, to the overexertion, all of that. So you need to shoot. You need to shoot. The arising of enemy of obstacles like dullness, sloth, agitation should be non-intimidating with the wisdom of the realization of the lack of inherent existence of the enemy whatsoever. You don't try to shoot with your remedies thinking whether it's a direct hit or not. The object doesn't exist. What's there to hit? Object doesn't exist from its own side. Remember that. So it's a mock battle, actually, but actually there is no object. There is no inherently existing laziness. It's just unintersected diligence. Unintersected diligence. Unwired diligence is laziness. So you transform them. Yeah, that's the victory of omniscience is becoming the sovereign king of one's own mind of infinite clarity and emptiness. Okay, good time to meditate. Now we will play the Heart Sutra, and please reflect on these meanings and read the Heart Sutra, because it's very beautifully captioned as well, and the scenery that they give you is also beautiful, but you have to see them as an empty of inherent existence. Don't get too attached to those sceneries of the Sakya nunnery. It's quite beautiful, actually. I haven't seen them depicted so well. So maybe you're allowed to be distracted for a while, all the beautiful things. But deep down, this Heart Sutra, they chanted by half a dozen nuns who graduated as a with the master's degree 2 years ago, and so we're going to play that, and you can chant if you can, at least. If not, just whisper with it, and then meditate on the become the victorious omniscience of the sovereign king of one's own mind of infinite clarity and emptiness. And while discerning sentient beings who lack this awareness is object of compassion, languishing in the grasping to things as real. So the victory of the omniscience is becoming the sovereign king of one's own mind, which endows the wealth of infinite clarity and emptiness. This then constitutes the practice of renunciation, and from what one renounces, what one becomes, what it becomes, where does it emerge to, who yields the result. These fundamental questions. The first, one renounces from the ocean of the suffering of samsara caused by grasping to things as real, self as innately, independently existing. So one needs to know how to, the renunciation is from these innate wrong views of grasping not only to self and things, but what one sees as real. And grasping to things that are compounded aggregates, which are by nature impermanent, we grasp them as truly existing. Impermanent things do not exist very soon thereafter. And when we grasp to them, it creates suffering, because it will turn out to be not what one thought. And that's why one needs to renounce from this grasping, not only its wrong view, but the understanding that it will make oneself happy, which actually does exactly the opposite, which disappoint oneself, isn't it? which disappoint oneself. So one has to renounce not only the grasping, the disappointment that will be the result of the grasping. So therefore, renounces the cause and renounces the effect. Okay, and so therefore, it's a renunciation from the ocean of samsara, ocean of vicious cycle, of going round and round and always thinking, pointing finger at something as it the cause of one's problem, without realizing one's own wrong view. It's the wrong view have to be renounced. And what becomes? What becomes is the second question is what one becomes is one becomes people who possess the instructions, people who possess the instructions of the perfection of wisdom, and engages in the practice of perfection of wisdom, and they are the one who experience this definite emergence. Now, definite emergence meaning you become very light, you become very bright. You don't have the weight of me and mine and self and of itself. It's like a without core, it hasn't got anything to, grasp by, and grasp for, and so on. That lack of the entity called I, and which has now become very light, and therefore become very bright, and very spacious and very unbounded entity. It's not a fixed entity, starts here and finish here, hasn't got a fixed name or anything like that. It is beyond thinking. It's inconceivable of what it is. But a definite is much one who possesses this instruction. One who's possessed this instruction is now and engages incessantly in the sixth perfection of the wisdom, perfection of wisdom. So it's like relishing the mixture of the food, of all the ingredients. So now he knows exactly how to make the food because he got all the ingredients. He has mixed all the things, and now he's relishing that. And what they become? They are transformed. The person who has these perfection wisdom are transformed by cutting away the wrong conceptions of all three realms, from desire realm to form realm and form realms. One doesn't see them any of those realms, such as desire realm or form realm, formless. People always seeking heaven, for instance. People want to go to heaven, and this form realm is heaven. Formless realm is heaven. So one hasn't got this wrong conception of wanting to be born in another vicious cycle. One has none of those craving. So one has become is one has transformed and cutting away all the cravings, wanting to be and reach anywhere in the three realms of existence. And this happened as a result of practicing the patience by bringing all opposing factors of the object, by breaking down the arrogance and prideful conceptions. And this means that this happened from destroying the nest of all the flows. What is the nest of the all flows? This innate feeling that I am, and it's mine, I and mine. And now when we look at externally, there is nothing that is in the outside of us that is really looks like graspable to me as mine, and let alone there is a grasper that inherently exists, whether from inside to outside or outside to inside. There isn't the nest. The nest has been destroyed. The nest of the flows has been destroyed from greeting the face of humility and joining the faults with the relevant antidotes. So all the faults naturally disperses to become remedied. So when things is remedied, the faults are no longer there. The faults are no longer present. So the total annihilation of those vicissitudes or residues of the flows are not there. Now, of course, this is talking about when we're talking about this perfection wisdom, we're talking about path of meditation. We're not talking about before we were talking about path of accumulation, path of preparation. Now, once the person has reached the path of seeing and path of meditation, then it's exactly they are now able to stay in that state, intersecting of all the 6 parameters. So, this came from practicing Dharma when these are hard. Yeah, you practice Dharma when things are very, very hard. During that, you invoke this perfection of wisdom, and then you annihilate all of them by the quick. It's the mantra that pacify all sorrows. They call it. It doesn't mean you have to recite the mantra. You might even do it but you don't need to recite the mantra of the mantra. This is not the mantra that doesn't need reciting. This is the mantra that you need to protect your wrong conception of the mind. Protecting your mind from the wrong conception is the real mantra. But verbalization is just the murmuring, it's the parroting of it. But even if you recite many verbal mantras, but if the mind itself is not guarding for the wrong conception of grasping to biology as me and height as me or color as me or achievement of me or when one is identifying these as mine, then we have yet to destroy the wrong conception. So even you did millions of mantra, the wrong conception is still left untouched. People are collecting list of the mantra they did, but the wrong conception is still untouched. The nest has never been discovered. Nest has not been discovered. The malas are shining because they did a lot of counting, but the wrong conceptions are still there untouched. So that's not the mantra. Here we're talking about that kind of mantra that actually destroys the wrong conception. Word mantra comes from mano and tara. Mano means mind, tara means to guardian of your mind. So goddess Tara's mantra doesn't guard you. The goddess Tara, knowing she is selfless goddess of complete perfection of wisdom, manifesting as a kind goddess to help beings who are so stranded, and she's just giving them a little help, but deep down she says, I can never help you unless you understand to guard your own damn wrong conceptions. She wouldn't say that. She's too polite, She's too polite. She never said that. And she often tried to say that, but we wouldn't hear it, She says she will allay your fear of fire or snakes or robbers or things like that. It's very careful. She's so kind. She says, I'll protect you from those dreadful snakes. I'll protect you from dreadful flood. But actually these are all wrong conception floods of the wrong conception. people are flooded by wrong conception, but they're praying so that there is no flood in the house. Oh, it's so cute, I mean, probably you can build a dam or something. You don't build your houses in Lismore. You build your houses in some high ground, and you don't have to pray to Goddess Tara for your miserable, low-lying house. Tara is the real guardian from the wrong conceptions. Wrong conceptions never touched. People praying for Tara for all those mundane things. Vajrayana is very skillful. Teaching people to pray to Tara to remove their ordinary from samsaric problems. But that is not really perfection wisdom. That's that's Kriya Tantra practice. That's just a little bit of fulfillment of mundane wishes. Hopefully sooner or later there will be recognized the flaw, the nest of the flaws. Yeah, we have to find the nest of the flaws and then destroy it. Unless one is able to do that, it's very difficult. We have to. So this came from repairing the perilous path by clearing narrow precipices and by taking sicknesses to sweep misdeeds and obscuration. So this is talking about how one has succeeded by doing the practice of the 6 paramitas. As a result of that, you are able to remove the very tight precipices, the very narrow precipices. What's the narrowness of precipice? Is grasping to the eye, So we have to just clear the precipices of self, and it's grasping to something. Because if one is grasping to a child or a house or an attainment or a title or something, the precipice is very, very tight. There's hardly any room to go, because there's no gap between the precipices. So you can fall down through the crevices. So that's when it says you have to clear the precipices of the wrong views. And when you have sicknesses and you have illness and you have cognitive obscuration and knowledge obscuration, you have to learn to sweep them away by not resenting them, but they do not exist independently from their own side. And because of that, you wouldn't moan and groan of your sicknesses and obscuration, but you will meditate on their lack of inherent existence. First, meditate on the impermanence. Secondly, if you don't see the impermanence, it will bring sufferings. You are suffering because you fail to realize impermanence. So emptiness, and then lack of suffering, and then the suffering has been now swept as if analogously, and therefore, what is the sweeper? What's the broom? Broom is the wisdom that actually see the lack of inherent existence, and therefore this came from practicing the 6 perfections by not dichotomizing deletion and addition. This is very important. Not dichotomize, not create division between the generosity and miserliness as mutually exclusive. They are mutually inclusive. So therefore, do not dichotomize yourself. Do not dichotomize somebody who is diligent or who's miserly. Don't think he's miserly is a problem because you have a very miserly husband or a very miserly mother or yourself, or for that matter, whatever. You don't dichotomize addition and deletion, meaning. So you don't think that what you're doing, what somebody is doing are not opposite. You need 2 hands to clap. Like that, you need to see the 2 sides of the same coin to make the coin. There is no single-sided coin. Single-sided coin. So therefore, do not dichotomize your practice of the 6 paramitas. So means, I'm the one who's patient, you are not. That kind of thing. And if you're being patient, you should smile and grin. oh, I'm patient, but I'm not truly existing patient unless he's giving me the opportunity to practice patience. So you actually whisper to yourself, don't you ever say that again. You're dichotomizing again that you are the one patient and they are the one who's impatient. They are two. These are mutually inclusive, mutually inclusive, which is really meditating on the emptiness of subject as well as emptiness of object and emptiness of the action on its own. There is no actual perfection of wisdom unless you are able to intersect the dichotomy, and therefore no addition and no deletion. No addition meaning you don't say, I'm the generous one. I did this 4 times, you have done only once. That kind of attitudes. That kind of calculated meanness. Always adding and subtracting. Always saying, oh, this is your shout today. Oh, I gave a shout last time. Don't you remember? It's your shout. That sort of thing. So good. People remember. People remember it's your shout. So they are adding and deleting all the time. They probably wrote them down. Oh, he owes me a lunch. This sort of thing. Oh, ridiculous. We have drank the mother's milk buckets and buckets and buckets. We never repay her. And we talk about how many lunch our mother owes us. Because completely ungrateful. This came from practicing the 6 perfection by not dichotomizing deletion and addition. So that means if you are able to clear the passage. This came from bringing and applying the 5 paths to the mental continuum. 5 paths. Path of accumulation. When you're practicing generosity, you need to see that your generous practice that you're doing is the very merit you will need to take yourself to the next level of path of preparation, where you are beginning to conceptually understanding emptiness of self. And then you have actually a glimpse of the path of seeing, then path of meditation, finally path of no more learning. So that's what it's talking about, because this is now summing up everything we went through, and to the mental continuum. Now you're bringing all of them together. That's what we're talking about. Now that you have finished the cake, you have been making the cake with all the ingredients, which you took a while to gather all of them and mix them, blend them, bake them, and now it's all there. Now, this came from the bringing all the ingredients, applying all the factors into your mental continuum, and now you have the result, realize it. This came from bringing benefit to devotees through acts of compassion. All of this, you did so with sole motivation for the benefit of others, not to gain enlightenment. That's just the peripheral. Attaining enlightenment, you can wait. If you have no compassion, enlightenment is not possible. Do you remember the story of Asanga? Asanga meditated 12 years, and he thought he will see the Maitreya. His distraction was to see Maitreya, and every time he come out of 3-year retreat, he wasn't better. Then he went back. After 12 years, he gave up the whole idea of seeing Maitreya, because Maitreya means loving kindness, But then when he gave up the idea of seeing Maitreya and then practiced the loving kindness to this poor dog whose body was so infected and dying with so many maggots, he said, I'm wasting my life. I should have been there to save this dog. And then he unhesitatingly and tried to cure the dog by licking the maggots with his tongue. And then when he did so, the dog disappeared and became Maitreya. So if you want to see Maitreya too much, you can be distracted. So the enlightenment is not the purpose. Purpose is to be compassionate to sentient beings. That's what it says. This came from bringing benefit to devotees through acts of compassion. This came from turning away from wrong path and by straightening when it became devious. You have to know the kind of hidden agenda your mind is doing, and you are able to straighten it. You have to straighten the bamboo or the tree that is growing right from the very beginning. If you don't put something to straighten up, it will all go diagonally to the neighbor's house, and there you have lots of problems. let the tree grow straight in your garden. Do you notice that? You never know how much this tree is going to spread. So you have to make sure right from the very beginning, you have to straighten it. Yeah. Before it becomes devious. It came from the spontaneous accomplishment. Yeah. Then the practice of generosity or patience is spontaneous. You don't have to and and calculate and all like that. You don't have hesitation but to practice patience. You don't have hesitation but to practice kindness and tolerance. There's no doubt about that, because you're not calculating, his turn, it's my turn, I don't want to do this again. This meanness does not get us anywhere. These emerge from the suppression of all the lesser vehicles. Yeah, all the lesser vehicles doesn't mean schools. This is the me, poor me attitude is the lesser school. Lesser school is in our own head. You don't have to go to some countries to become lesser school. It's the person who's only thinking of me. This kind of meanness of the thinking, I, so small-minded. So we need to suppress that self-centeredness mind. Then we have adopted the big vehicle. The big vehicle is the altruistic vehicle, and so that talks about answer the first two questions: what one becomes, and where does one emerge. And now third is where does one emerge. This is where does one emerge to when you attain the perfection of wisdom. This will emerge in the state of non-abiding nirvana. So then you attain what is called non-abiding nirvana. Non-abiding nirvana is different from the abiding nirvana. Non-abiding nirvana means you have reached the nirvana, meaning you have absent of sorrow and its causes and obscuration, but you have no intention to abide in nirvana, but to come back to the world, and whatever form and shape you need to manifest to suit the benefit of sentient being, you are going to emanate. You're going to take the manifestation of Rupakaya, the form body. As soon as this renunciation is accomplished, the mountain of wrong view, wrong conception will collapse. Mountain of the wrong conception will collapse. The river of samsara will be dried. Now these are very colorful images, isn't it? Mountain of wrong conception will collapse. Okay, the river of samsara will be dried, so nobody will be drowned. And having attained the resultant three kayas, now this is talking about nirmanakaya, sambhogakaya, and dharmakaya. One will be able to now work for the benefit of all beings in the form of the nirmanakaya. Then in the form of Rupakaya. Rupakaya means form body. Form body has got two subdivisions. Sambhogakaya in the higher realms for those beings who have reached certain high levels but still needs guidance. So there you will teach in the form of Sambhogakaya. But in the ordinary world like this world, you will manifest as a birth nirmanakaya or excellent nirmana. Excellent nirmanakaya is like the Shakyamuni Buddha, like some great teachers and practitioners in India and no doubt in Burma, and I'm sure there are. In Tibet, there were certain eminent luminaries who had many of the enlightened characteristics, like Sakya Pandita. Like Sakya Pandita had nearly 20 over or more of the 112 marks that they are listed. Anybody who saw Sakya Pandita, they all just got something extraordinary. He was already like a Buddha in human form, Manjushri. So they will manifest as a result in Nirmanakaya, but he came not as excellent Nirmanakaya, but his life is like the Shakyamuni Buddha's 12 great deeds of the Buddha. So Sakya Pandita came, was born from the human mother and so on, like the Shakyamuni Buddha, but he's of course not anointed as the historical Buddha. That's why he actually had 20 over excellent Nirmanakaya features, even in the birth Nirmanakaya. Some practitioners have at least distinctive certain physical features like protuberance or various things like skin never aging or always beautiful or always amazing, that their whole activities are boosted by their physical features. You can see like somebody said, like if His Holiness Dalai Lama is 20 meters away, you would feel it, or maybe even in the region. I can feel it even when from Dharamsala. I can feel His Holiness. When you so it's not so much that His Holiness presence doesn't radiate this far, but His presence radiates everywhere. The sun is shining everywhere, but different people are using the sun for different things. So the presence of the Nirmanakaya can be felt by individuals whose own mental stream is ripened. But those who are not Nirmanakaya, birth Nirman, they don't have such ability to influence other people because they don't have the particular presence or stature. In Tibetan Buddhism, we give a lot of importance to the appointment of our leaders, of our heads, in a very great care, and mostly very mystical way they do it. But some of them, whether it's the mystical or not, you can definitely feel there's something incredible, inconceivable persona or presence or emanation. And just by the name of His Holiness Dalai Lama, when people say it, it just straight away brings them to a new place, because that's the holiness of the individuals. So this is what we're talking about. Having attained the resultant three kayas, one will work to benefit sentient beings and made vow, like Gorin Tara. Tara made vow that she will always manifest as a female disguised bodhisattva. She will never manifest in a male form. Why? Because female bodhisattvas are not counted. And she want to fill the gap. Good on her. So Tara is the first feminist. Tara is the first feminist. She made this known before, right at the very beginning. She said, no way, all her brothers made prayers and she had 1,002 brothers who all made prayers in front of the Buddha of that eon, and they all made prayer to become this Buddha, and they all fulfilled. And she was the only daughter. And she said, not only because I'm the only daughter, but because none of my brothers made prayer to be born as a female. And he said, how about I have to fill the gap? There must be a reason that I'm a female. So she made a vow that she will only manifest as a female. So I profoundly believe that there are many, many unrecognized mothers and sisters and your friends among the female who are disguised bodhisattvas incognito, because you will see how kind those people are, how selfless they are, how generous they are, how tireless they are, how they do so many things. We never recognize who they actually are because they themselves don't need the recognition. They don't need recognition. Most bodhisattvas are not recognized, not coronated, okay? They don't have drivers. They don't have one who carries the umbrellas. They actually carry other people's umbrella. They're probably working on the old people's homes as volunteers, soup kitchen, and lots of people are working almost menial jobs, but radiating love and peace and service and selflessness. You believe it, you will see them. You don't tell them, are you a bodhisattva? They don't have to. Look at what they do. Look at what they do. And our world has so many such unsung local heroes. They only want one local hero a year. That's ridiculous. I can find every minute. Every minute I can find one local hero who are distinctively distinctively selfless, kind, generous, whatever you do. And not that, the more you look around, more you see them. Because you tend to see them, because when you have lots of regard for sentient beings as everyone being Buddha nature, having Buddha nature, you begin to see a lot of them are flowering. They are already blossoming. They're all growing. They're maturing, and some of them are pretending they're not, but they're actually teaching us something completely. So even those people who slap you, or even those who walk over you and who throw your food on the plate and ask you to leave, you never know what they are doing. Tara sometimes could be quite ferocious. So be kind, be careful next time the person in your life, they're teaching you. Do not dichotomize. Remember that. Do not dichotomize those things. See what they're teaching you. You're not going to learn. This teaching is not the teaching. The real life situations are the teachers. So these are just theories. These are just the theories of the teaching. But actual things in life, you meet them. These are the people. Those who have pushed you the wrong button are actually helping you to find your right button, if you have one. Why you deactivate it so long? You have to keep them handy. Only when they push your wrong button so many times, then do you realize you've got to deactivate them. And you've got to find your right button. You see? Furthermore, during the path of accumulation, one gathers the stocks of merit. One gathers all the raw materials. The listening of the Dharma, the studying of the Dharma, meditating on Dharma, and doing the practice, implementing then everything. These are the accumulation of the stocks of merit. And then you invoke the wisdom. On the path of preparation, one after having gradually attained the 4 definitive discriminating factors. We were talking about that earlier. The 4 definitive factors, they're definitive in the sense they are actually show you clearly the demarcation of your progress or lack thereof. The first demarcation of the definitive factor is the heat. The heat is like you're making a piece of, try to make fire from the 2 pieces of wood by rubbing. You can see it's going to make fire or not by generating the heat. Like that, you've got to rub long enough until the 2 pieces of cold pieces of wood become heated. Yeah. So first there's heat in you. You are actually more conscious of your laziness, your dullness, your ingratitude, and your anger, and your ill will. Previously, you were always thinking it's other people's ill will or resentment or like that. Now you're much more subjectively conscious of your own flaws, nest of the flaws, that you never knew that you had some. Now you have discovered the nest of them. And this discovery enables you to become conscious of your own obscurations. And not only you're conscious of your obscurations, but conscious of the lack of inherent existence of your obscuration. Very good. So don't lump yourself with obscuration. Even your obscurations are not real. Why? Because you can see they have been conditioned to act as though they were. But now when you decondition them, slowly, they are rubbing away, and slowly you see the reduction of your obscuration. Because of that, the heat means you actually you don't have the sharp tongue, you don't have the kind of wrong views as much as you previously had before. After the path of accumulation, you reach the path of preparation. Path of preparation is there where there's significant signs. You have to have, before the sun rises, firstly you see the dawn light. You can see that there is a dawn, there's going to be sun. Like that, before you realize conceptual understanding of emptiness, you actually see the awareness of your own karma and afflictions and obscuration as your own making. And then you are surprised that you have stocked up this much obscuration unconsciously all these years. And you're shocked by your naivety and your kind of negligence. And now you wanted to tighten your belt, pull your socks, and roll up your sleeves. You got work to do. This work is not to work, This is the inner work, the subjective work that you need to do. That is the sign of the heat. That then your diligence, then your discipline to meditate, discipline to study are not just once a week, not just like a hobby. It's like every moment you are witnessing your mind and know what obscuration to cull. Yeah. And you are so subjectively cognizant of your own mind, and what wonder it has the power to shape, reshape, and remold your own persona. Now there's a lot of self-correction. And this self-correction is giving you the heat. This heat gives you the definitive discriminating awareness to take you to the next level of the peak. There's amazing peak. There's amazing rise of kindness, amazing rise of devotion you never knew. Previously, you thought you were not a religious person. You thought you won't go there. But now you just don't know how to stop the devotion increasing in the validity of the Dharma and the genuine preciousness of the Dharma. You could not even utter a word. You just are dumbfoundedly so appreciative of that. So there is amazing sense of peaking of the joy, the renunciation, the delight, the faith, the refuge, all of that. And because peak is like reaching on the top. And you have never peaked that high. I mean, it's a spiritual climax, The word peak is sometimes translated as climax. Yeah, it's a climax of your devotion, climax of your faith in the refuge, and the law of karma, and the veracity of the bodhicitta, and the importance of practicing kindness. And you never previously thought, why would I be kind when they are not? That kind of doubt, You're so convinced that you will not practice kindness unless they are. So this is very mean, Unless he's kind to me, I'm not going to be kind. That kind of mean kindness. Now, no. Exactly opposite. You have peaked your confidence that kindness is the way. That's why His Holiness Dalai Lama said, kindness is my religion. You have to see the peaking of that, climaxing of your spiritual realization. Now, I'm just simple examples here, but actually peaking of your realization of emptiness, You have previously it's all conceptual understanding, emptiness. Now, meditationally, you are peaking the realization of emptiness. And therefore, third one is you have amazing forbearance. Forbearance means previously you forbear because your boss might fire you, so you are forbearing him because of trying to preserve your job. It's a hidden agenda patience. Now this time the forbearance is so that you overcome your own hidden agenda. You overcome your own aversion and impatience. So therefore the forbearance is that the more you forbear hardships, that much you burn the karmic calories. And it is not as you are doing some favor to others by being patient. You are getting rid of your own garbage. And so therefore your forbearance level is very meticulous. And so that was gradually attaining these the heat, peak, and forbearance, and then the supreme dharma, which distinguishes the demarcation of the contaminated and uncontaminated stage. Yeah. So the different distinguishes, it's like a border between which side is which, like New South Wales border and Victoria. New South Wales border is really bumpy. The roads are not good. Victoria, it's good. All the Victorias. Road is all repaired. Just don't worry about being in New South Wales. Now you can cross the border, so you can tell. When I go to Victoria, I can always tell we have reached Victoria. The road's much better. So there is a kind of demarcation. There is a signpost. You have actually gone past the path of preparation, and then one gains the insight of the enlightenment of 7 limbs of enlightenment, the first bhumi, and the seed of samsara is completely severed. One attains the confidence of not reversing into the three realms. Means you are not going to be now reversible. You have reached the path of irreversible. Because there is no cause that will. If you're going to be born, you're going to be born in the world out of miraculous intention as a bodhisattva, not because of karma. After attaining the realizing the Eightfold Path in the path of meditation, one gradually liberates from the fear of lesser vehicle. As soon as the path of meditation is completely accomplished, after gaining Dharmakaya on the stage of Sarva Prabha means always brilliant, always brilliant, one will then carry out either directly or indirectly all the enlightened activities of the true kayas. So this is really talking about how one attains when the true renunciation, accumulation, merit, and renunciation is accomplished. You actually attain that state of Rupakaya. So I think we won't go any further than that tonight in terms of teaching wise. I think we have a bit of time to meditate on these messages on the perfection of wisdom. So can we do that? So everybody sit upright and try to bring your mind and a supercharged awareness of the refuge and bodhicitta all mixed together in the mode of practicing meditation on the illusory nature of all things. But sentient beings who do not have any glimpse of realizing these are languishing in the suffering pool of suffering caused by poor me mentality. So you are outwardly manifesting compassion, but deep down you are dwelling in the deep meditation on the emptiness of self. So with this in mind, we will do the meditation on perfection of wisdom, of emptiness. We'll chant for a few minutes the Heart Sutra mantra. So now we conclude here by doing the dedication of merits as a formality. But of course, we are meant to stay in this kind of state awareness whenever possible, without intervened by any kind of mundane, worldly, conventional activities. That our conventional activities outside is still just for the sake of these relative aggregates to be maintained. But other than that, our mind can always remain in this kind of conditional state of meditative state of awareness, and then you will see the amazing sort of lightness and lightness in your mind to see the plight of sentient beings caused by pervasive conditioning suffering that is grasping to things as real when they are actually so incessantly changing and shifting, and they almost don't see it. They think there's something stagnantly real from its own side. And this kind of wrong conception of grasping something unreal as real is the cause of most people's unconscious sufferings. Towards that, your compassion is constantly present. And as for this purpose, we also need to be engaged with the world. But otherwise, we're resting in that state of meditative equilibrium. So with this, we're going to do the dedication merits. Everybody has been very diligent and very, consistent and listening, not only listening to the teaching, but showing some amazing capacity and aptitude they have a lot of, you have a reserve a lot of merits to understand and then to comprehend, and then also knowing how wonderful it will be if our mind can tune in this state of awareness at all times. So with this kind of mental aptitude, you can definitely host this awareness to grow and foster through all times. So for that we will offer these dedication merits. Mahayana whatever merit I have, because the Mahayana teaching courage manjush renewed as ama the Bajare Alohe Avade Zamba Ashade Dege Mere Mede Salem Bodhi Jeda Tebe Erenayadaza as bembo meredengre rele weda degeneration. Thank you, everyone.